So I am welcoming all of you to our, is it third Sunday or fourth Sunday where we've been going live? That's very cool. And we'll just wait another little second so other people can come on. And there we go. Okay. All right. I'm officially starting. So, welcome to our Sunday talk, which is the biggest miracle, resurrect to everlasting newness. And as I thought about this topic, I thought, what the heck does that mean? It sounds so boring. And yet, this is a very exciting idea. I want to share with you a story that happened at another church with a fellow minister of mine. He was holding his Easter service, and the children came up to listen to his opening remarks. And he asked them, "Does anyone know what the resurrection is?" And one of the little boys piped up, "I'm not quite sure, but I do know that if you have a resurrection that lasts longer than 4 hours, you should see a doctor." Hee hee hee, little joke. Okay, not so good. All right, so what is resurrection? Now, if you are interested in having a traditional resurrection or Easter service, then this isn't the place for you. So I invite you to go there where there are many people who are handling the idea of Jesus as God resurrecting from the dead in a way that does that honor. But I always like to give a different spin on topics that everybody else is treating in a traditional way. And for me, and in everything that I do, what I really like to experience and express is a personal experience, as in, what does this mean to me? And so, let me just fix that there. Okay. So, what does resurrection mean to you? We call it the biggest miracle. And this month we are looking at miracles and getting to understand that we call something a miracle because we don't understand the laws that are in operation. These laws are unseen, invisible. We discover these laws like gravity and aerodynamics and electricity. We discover these laws, and when we discover them, then we can use them for our own advantage to improve the quality of our own lives. And aren't we all grateful right now with all that was discovered in quantum mechanics so that we can have this technology and connect with each other via virtual reality? It's a wonderful thing to discover laws, these laws that always are present, but we can't get any use out of them until we understand them. And so miracles are the use of these laws that we have not yet fully understood. And so we sit and go, my gosh, it's a miracle. So resurrection, what is that? We call it the greatest miracle of all time, rising from the dead. And yet, what we need to understand is it's possible for us to resurrect from the dead all the time. Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote years and years ago, "Today, the horizon is clear. The voyage starts anew. We are reborn." The true resurrection is not only from this life into the next. It takes place daily and hourly as we shed the limited concepts of life and come into the vineyard to gather the fruit of the Spirit, hanging rich from the vines of God. In other words, we resurrect whenever we discover something new about ourselves. The old ideas about ourselves and the past, that's what's dead. But if we keep carrying these old ideas about ourselves, our old definitions, our old self concepts, and if we keep carrying our past and our history and what was done to us, if we keep carrying that, then we are living the same life over and over. And we do feel deader and deader. Or, as I've been saying, bored. I'm so bored. And we are bored when we look at the same old, same old. We are bored when we are used to ourselves. We have a tremendous opportunity right now imposed on us by the world where all of our usual habits of interacting with the world have been taken away from us. And I'll admit, when they come up with yet another restriction, I respond with a lot of crankiness. How dare they close the parks? What do they mean I have to wear a mask? And I just don't like change. And I like to be comfortable and cozy. And I set up my little structure of my life. And I just like to just settle into it and go along with my life with wonderful enjoyment and experiences, but not getting shook up too much. And here we all are getting shook to pieces. And if you're like me, unconsciously, you may be feeling a tremendous amount of anxiety. And yeah, we think it's because of what the media is saying and all of this, but actually, anxiety is a normal human experience when we're all shook up, when our lives are changing and we just don't know what to do about it. For a few weeks, we were all hoping, I want to get back to normal. I want to get back to normal. I just want this all to go away so we can all return to our normal lives. And I agree with that, unfortunately, for me, because we all stand at the doorway of an opportunity to explore ourselves and to create a life, create ourselves anew, something new. Newness, real newness, is it something that we discover. It's something that we never thought of before. It's something that we never saw before. It's not innovation, as in taking what we've had as our life and improving it, but to actually allow something to come to us out of the blue. And when something new comes to us out of the blue, it can seem like grace, like a miracle. And that's what resurrection is about. Resurrection is about moving through the old and letting it go and waking up to something that's so new that we have to discover it, that we have to explore it, that we have to figure it out. Something that's so new that we don't know what to do with it. And that's where we are in the world right now. The whole world is changing. How many of you reacted like me when internet first came on the scene? And I remember when I first was given an email address by the Center for Spiritual Living Princeton. And I was told, you're going to love this. Here, use this. And I was like, I want to use it. I'm not interested. And they were saying, you're going to love the internet. And no, I don't. And yet I was forced to adapt to change. And as this situation comes out, I am so grateful that I'm exploring it and that I'm learning about it. So the question to ask yourself today is, have you changed ever? Have you ever changed so much that you got surprised by who you are? Have you ever surprised yourself? That's newness. And it's possible. It's possible for every single one of us to be surprised. So there's a 3-step process in waking up into a whole new world or a whole new self. So the first step is let go or surrender your old ideas about yourself. In using Jesus as a teacher, as a way shower, which he certainly did agree that he was, he said he lived as an example of how we can also live our lives. And that time in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was working it with God to take away the changes that he felt were coming to him. And he was negotiating, as in, can you take it away? And, he was doing his spiritual work. He was going really deep. And finally, he had to accept, I give up. I give up. And the way that he expressed that acceptance was, not my will, but thy will be done. I give up. But what he gave up was his best ideas of moving forward and changing in life. And that is our first step for resurrection, is to give up or be willing to give up our best ideas or our most favorite ideas or our most comfortable ideas about ourselves. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we don't know ourselves. Maybe we don't have to believe what we've always believed about ourselves. A little guide rule that I like to use, well, I mean, not like to, I use, I don't like it, is whenever I say I cannot do something because, watch what follows that because. Because what follows our becauses is our stories. And they're just stories. They're good stories. We've got a lot of facts and evidence to back them up. In fact, we've got our whole lives to prove that this because is real and therefore I cannot change. However, it may be facts, it may be the past, but the past is dead. We die to the past. And maybe our whole lives were wrong. I remember when I went to a new dentist here when I moved back to New Jersey. He did a whole X-ray scan or something of my entire mouth. And afterwards, he explained to me how my wisdom teeth had been removed from this side of my mouth, but they were still present here. And I said, no, you got it wrong. The doctor years ago removed these teeth, and these are still in here. And he's like, no, the X-ray isn't turned around. No, believe me, you've got teeth here and no teeth here. And we went back and forth a couple times, and I gave him the story. No, look, I know because I can feel this tooth pushing against the rest of my teeth and kind of knocking them out of alignment. And every once in a while, this impacted wisdom tooth hurts. And over here, where that dentist removed it, he left a hole. And I've been having food getting trapped in that hole ever since this was done. This was done when I was 20 or something. And I've been really angry with that dentist all these years. But that hole is there. I can feel it. I could put my tongue in it. And so we went back and forth. And so finally, my new dentist got a mirror and he put it into my mouth over that hole. And it shone up on the little screen that he's got there, that little video, and inside that hole was a tooth. What? It's my mouth. It happened to me. I know what side of my mouth the teeth got removed from, and I've got my whole story about it. And yet, there's a tooth in there. I was wrong. When I left that dentist's office, I was so shook up, I got dizzy. So maybe our stories are wrong. And of course, in realizing that my whole story of what that doctor did to me was wrong, And all my anger and resentment at him leaving this hole in my mouth was all a lie. And also the story about all this pain of this tooth over here pushing and knocking all my teeth out of alignment is also wrong. There's nothing there, and my teeth aren't getting knocked out of alignment. I'm just totally wrong. Oh my gosh. The joy, once you get over it, to be wrong. For your stories that you've believed so strongly your whole lives to be completely and totally wrong, then what? Then what? And so the 3 steps of resurrection that Jesus teaches us is he surrenders. And all of his old beliefs, his whole life is dead, let go, released. And then we're in the tomb, the void. Well, now what? And that's where we are right now during all of this isolation as a world. We're all in the tomb. We don't like being in the tomb. We might be trying to get out of the tomb. We may be suffering and struggling and in depression. Who knows, right, what our experiences are in this tomb. But like it or not, we are in a tomb. And how long does the tomb last? Dr. Arlene Bump, whose inspiration of over a decade ago I'm using, she says the 3 days in the tomb is subconscious incubation. In other words, we're in a whole new world and we can't consciously figure it out. And it represents that time that it takes for the new to emerge. And it can take 3 minutes, 3 months, 3 years, 3,000 years. But it's going to take however long it is for us to arise to the new. And that's where we are right now with this world, this manufactured tomb that we are all in. We all want to know how long. I mean, the first couple of weeks I was like, okay, temporary. I guess I was in denial. I'm like knowing the truth. I'm doing spiritual work. Let's get rid of this. It's not going to affect me, blah, 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 blah. And then about a week or so ago, I realized, oh my gosh, this is my life. I'm going to be here in this tomb for another month, 2 months. I can't even listen to what different people suggest because they're all suggesting whatever based on their becauses, right? But no one knows. We won't know till we get there. We don't know until we rise, until we are resurrected. While Jesus was in that tomb, everything was happening to him. There was nothing for him to do. And while we are in the tomb, there's nothing for us to do. We can think of the butterfly, right? Caterpillar, old life. Look at that transformation in that chrysalis there. And while that caterpillar is in there, its entire body dissolves into mush. You don't want to open it up. Very yuck. And then it emerges and becomes this beautiful butterfly. And it doesn't know how to be a butterfly, but it's got wings. And I have a friend who works with the monarch butterflies, the caterpillars, when they're in that transformation. And I was at her home last year when she had let one of those monarch butterflies out. And she had put it on a bush outside, and it was there drying its wings, and they just were fluttering. And she said, you know, it'll be a few hours maybe that it just sits there on that bush while its wings dry, and then when it's ready, it will fly. And so that resurrection, what we need to realize is the resurrection is on its way, but we will wake up to a whole new life, certainly a whole new world, but a whole new life for ourselves. When you, me, we come out of our tombs, what surprises will we have for ourselves? So if we follow Jesus's 3-step program here, we need to take a look at our old self and decide, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more to me than I have ever explored. And the spiritual truth is that we are infinite beings. We're not stuck with our human personality. We're not stuck with the stars that were in alignment we are born. We're not even stuck with what our biological parents handed to us. We're not stuck to the environment, to our upbringing. We are not stuck at all. Yeah, that all was our past, but today we are able to choose. And when we choose, I am done with all that I have already done. Been there, done that. Love that phrase. Been there, done that. I am ready for something new. We then take that step of surrender, but we need something to surrender to. And so what Jesus has shown us we need to surrender to is something greater than we are. If you want to have more love in your life, accept you know nothing about love and surrender to divine love to take you and transform you and show you the new ways that you can be love and express love and then experience love. If it's more peace, call on higher peace to show you the way, to show you where you have been wrong about the way peace should look or should feel or what other people should do in order to be peaceful. And so whatever newness that you want to resurrect to, we call upon the divine ideal of that quality to show us the way. Call it God. God, show me the way. How many people in 12-step programs have had to take that first step, right? I don't know what I'm doing. My life is unmanageable. My old life is unmanageable. And then call upon a higher power to show me the way. And those who go through that program say that they have been resurrected. They've been completely changed. They discover a whole new way of being. Years ago, I did one of those prayers, divinity within me, infinite intelligence within me. Show me if I have any addictions. And boom, immediately I got shown I'm addicted to caffeine. And I'm thinking, what's the problem with that? But I surrendered it to freedom, the divine quality of freedom. I wanted to know, who am I without this old habit of being addicted chemically and emotionally, habitually, environmentally to caffeine? Who am I without it? And of course, I had that week of horrific withdrawal, which that alone surprised me. I didn't know I would be in such agony. And then as that subsided, I discovered a different way that my body feels that I had never noticed since I was a teenager. A different new normal of how the body feels unaddicted to caffeine. It was calmer and it was more balanced and even. I didn't have highs and lows and highs and lows and highs and lows throughout the day. However I woke up is how awake I was for the entire day. It was a whole different experience. I'm not saying you have to give up caffeine or anything else, but the thing is that every one of us deserves and has the ability to discover something new about themselves, which proves our old self wrong. And the only way to do it is not the way the world is making us change. This is horrific. How dare you, world, make me change? Reverend Lloyd Strum and Reverend Marcia Sutton have said, we can move forward into newness, either in our seat, in spiritual practice, or out in the street, in nightmare, hellish types of conditions like what we've got right now. And so, so the street is insisting we change and move into newness, but we don't have to suffer. And when we call on that higher power, God, Jesus, whatever that higher idea of goodness is for you, you can call on that holy presence to show you the way, to take your hand, to support you in the process of transformation, and eagerly look forward to discovering who you are and who you have always been, but you never knew that before. In other words, we think we know ourselves, but there's so much to ourselves buried. And when we start discovering who we are, we discover that we are so much more than we ever can imagine before, that we are free, that we are more loving and kind and sympathetic and compassionate than we thought before, that we care more than we ever thought before, that we are more of a blessing to the world than we ever thought before. We are more good than we believe ourselves to be. And life is much more wonderful than we ever thought it was. And so this is what this day, Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, is all about. This is what it can teach us, just as it did for Jesus. I mean, he was working at raising people from the dead, but man, to go through it himself, when it came right down to it, he was saying, I'm not ready for that. I need to learn more. I need to study more. I'm not now, please God, no. But no, he was ready. So he went through it and he came out. When he came out of the tomb and met his friends did not recognize him. And the butterfly does not recognize themselves. And wouldn't it be wonderful to not recognize your own self? It's there. It's possible. I don't care what your story is. I don't care how long you've been around. I don't care. I know for each one of us, our teeth are on the other side of our heads. Well, I know that there is for every single one of us something new about our real selves to be discovered. And I'm not talking about the should self. I'm not talking about, I need to lose weight. I need to get more fit. I need to pray more. I need to forget the needs, forget the shoulds. That's not the new self we're talking about. We're talking about a new self that is the real you, that is for you to discover. As in, I didn't know love as me would look this way. I didn't know being free of addiction to caffeine would feel this way. I didn't know that I would act this way, that I would be interested in opera, that I would become interested in making doilies. I didn't know this about myself. But that's newness, real newness, capital N newness. And that's what the resurrection is about. We want to resurrect continuously to newness over and over and over again. Yearly, monthly, weekly, hourly, moment to moment. And so let me do a little affirmative prayer. I call it spiritual mind treatment for each one of us now. And if you do not want to move into newness, shut the video off now. Okay, you've been warned. This word is being spoken for each one who desires this good. There is only one life, and that life is God's life. And that life is infinite. In other words, this infinite presence, it is love, it is peace, it is harmony, it is joy, it is intelligence, it is goodness, and that which it is infinite. There is no end to what God can possibly create. No matter how much good God has created as this universe, there is infinite more good for this divine, loving creator to create. And that is true of the divine, and it is true of the divine's most beloved child, each one here. Each one is created by the divine creator. And the possibilities for expressing themselves, expressing the qualities of the divine are infinite. There is no end. There is no death to the possibility of creating and experiencing and discovering newness. And so, for the highest and the greatest good of each one, the highest and greatest good that each one would agree to, the highest and the greatest good that when discovered, each one will say, yes, I love it. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. It is this good that is calling each one forward. And whatever needs to be laid down or surrendered, whatever beliefs about oneself, greatest concepts of oneself, whatever old habits, old beliefs, old feelings, old stories that are not a part of this new good that is the true self of each one is all now gently and peacefully and harmoniously erased, vanished, loosed, let go, just melted away from each one harmoniously and peacefully, and each one awakens to a whole new experience of being themselves. Each one awakens to a whole new world, and what each one awakens to is something greater, something better, something more loving, more harmonious, healthier, more wonderful, something that is such a joy that each one is able to say, I cannot be that I am he on whom thy tempests rained all night. This is the true reality and experience for each one as God the Creator desires each one to love their life completely. It begins with each one loving their true self completely and open up to spread their wings and fly. It is a whole new world, a whole new being, a whole new self that each one is discovering. And that discovery begins right now. I am grateful. This is the truth. I release this word to God. So grateful it is done. And so it is. And that's the way it is. I hope you enjoyed this talk and feel free to share.